Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
What really stumps us each week are the large number of letters we receive from children asking us why birds are so colorful, who takes care of animals that are injured, and whether atmospheric pollution would be controlled if we all have little gardens. Letters like this make us wonder whether we miss the wood for the trees in our reports. Sulaksha Bandekar of Vasco, Goa writes, I would like to know about trees, birds, fish and animals and minerals in and around Goa. That's a tall order. What we can do is assess the impact of the Konkan Railway on some of the things you've mentioned. The railways are the most eco-friendly way of transporting large numbers of people from place to place. And yet, fears have been expressed about what will happen to the ecology in the region of the proposed line. Sneha Koshi reports.
Railgadi, Railgadi.
At the heart of the controversy that has dogged the Konkan Railway project from the drawing board stage is the question: can development be justified at the cost of ecological destruction, and would an alternative route to the hinterland have avoided that destruction? Environmentalists feel that the proposed route will obliterate the age-old decided to follow the route from Mayam to Bali to see just what the impact of construction was. The first casualty undoubtedly are the Khazan lands that lie near the coast. They are a unique man-made agro-system stretching over 17,000 square kilometers in Goa. The Khazans are lands that were reclaimed over centuries by an intricate system of bunds and sluice gates. At high tide, the wooden shutters of the sluice gates close and the entry of water is controlled. At low tide, the panels open and the water goes out, thus protecting the fields from being inundated with saline water. So you can imagine, what would happen if a railway line is suddenly built in the middle of such an extensive and intricate system?
The unique thing about the Khazan lands is that the land is very soft and very fragile.
Last monsoon, the water was not draining out. So we were not able to cultivate. None of the paddy farmers were able to cultivate their rice.
हे सगळे आमचे वाड्यावयले लोकांचे शेत आतां तें रोवपा मेळना. कोंकण रेल्वे रस्तो जाला आनी सगळें बुडोवन उरता आनी आमी जेवपा पाशिर कांय ना आमच्या पोटा बसून काम करपाचें थंय वचून.
And yet the Konkan Railway officials justify the destruction of the Khazan lands, saying that rice is not the staple crop of Goa.
Rice is not, and this is being said by, among others, Dr. Pai Panandikar, who is very vehemently against Konkan Railway.
that the livelihood of the farmers may be affected doesn't seem to concern Mario Cabralska. The question whether the embankments could have been built keeping in mind the functioning Kazan system will remain rhetorical, because it's too late to undo the damage. The culverts that have replaced the old drains are an impractical drainage solution. Waterlogging is already occurring and the sheer weight of constructions causing the soft soil to sink.
These people have not learned. So there is going to be very serious problem there. If they stop sinking today and they say that okay, we put ballast and put the rail, tomorrow if suddenly one place sinks, what will happen to the trains that are running?
This is the Karambolam wetland. A couple of years back, 40,000 migratory species of birds were recorded to have visited this area. In fact, there was a proposal to protect this area under the Wildlife Protection Act, but seeming indifference has led to opening up of the area, and now this area may be lost to us forever.
The railway embankments cut right through rich mangrove areas, destroying a sizable amount of them. Millions of tons of soil are transported and piled up for the embankments to be built. Seepage from the embankments increase siltation in other water bodies, adversely affecting fishing in small lakes. Mud for the railway embankments is got from the hills. Green cover is lost as a result. Sites such as these are common. The building of scores of tunnels also means damage will be aggravated and groundwater will move towards lower areas. Besides, soft soil, which is a characteristic of the area, is also a problem when you take elaborate construction for high-speed trains into account.
What are the safety measures that you are taking? In
the normal safety measures which the other Indian railways are taking.
Which are? Can you?
There is nothing required, no special measures are required. The whole complex of Mother of God of Franciscans, their fishing pond and cemetery have been completely obliterated by the Konkan Railway. In fact, this embankment partly is done with the stones and tombstones of the old complex. What I would like to mention is, I can give you a report. Justice Oja has gone through all these objections from a neutral angle, hearing both the parties, and then come to a decision. So there is no point in going over all this again.
That the Konkan Railway will be a reality is a fact. Much of the discussion now is academic. Only time will reveal what the consequences of the construction will be. Many of the benefits of the railway line have been forgotten in the ongoing debate. To be fair, the 760-kilometer line from Bombay to Mangalore will facilitate transport for backward and inaccessible areas. Rail distances and fares will be reduced. For instance, the route from Mangalore to Bombay will be shorter by 914 kilometers. From Mangalore to Ahmedabad by 295 kilometers, and travelling from Goa to Bombay will take just 8 hours as against 20 hours by bus at present. Narrow roads will be decongested, and Goa's population, which is primarily on the coast, will be better connected to other parts of India. Employment will be boosted, investments in the area will go up, railway engineering will receive a phenomenal boost given the sheer scale and logistics of the project. The benefits of the railway are undeniable, and yet one can't help but wonder whether all the ecological destruction is inevitable, whether historic sites could have been protected, and whether a route through the hinterland affecting the mining lobby's interests would have been equally viable.
Energy is precious. Putting off an extra fan or a light always counts. ISI marked gadgets are more efficient than any other device. Remember, every action of yours counts.
Still to come, what joining the mainstream means for traditional communities like the Dangs, and how this poverty and drought-stricken village was transformed into a prosperous haven. P. Rajesh of Melur, Tamil Nadu, wants to know more about the lives of tribals, how they interact with their environment, and what we can learn from their way of life. Here's Nandini Rajwade with a profile of the Dangi tribals in Gujarat.
You can spot them on hillsides, scurrying about uprooting small plants, plucking leaves and ferreting in the soil. It's not some animal we are talking about, but the Dangi tribals who live in Dang's Gujarat's smallest district. Ask them what they are doing and you won't get an answer. They are shy and wary of outsiders, live in a reserve forest and worship nature. The traditional inhabitants of the Dangs were the Bhils. Because they depended on the forest for their survival, they helped preserve nature's bounty. Excellent archers, they successfully beat back the Gaikwads and the Mughals and other advancing armies to protect their forests. But what many people don't know is that medicine is a way of life for the Dangs. I have always known about it is the standard answer of every Bhagat, as the medicine men are called in the area. The barks of trees, roots, seeds, flowers and berries cure sore throats, swollen limbs, stomach upsets and even snake bites and broken limbs. Tribal medicine might seem esoteric to modern man, but for the common Dangi, it is a gift his forefathers left him, the secrets of which he will divulge to no one. The Dangs Reserve Forest is home to 216 medicinal plants. But exactly what root is used for what is something Pawar Bhai would not tell us. Just why he wouldn't, we learnt only later. There's an oft-repeated Dangi tale you hear if you visit the area and if you can figure out the Dangi dialect, which is a mix of English, Hindi and Marathi.
The Gora Sahibs came many moons ago with 3 sacks and asked the Dangi Rajas to choose one. The first had soil, the second bark and the third money. The Dangs Rajas chose the third. So the Gora Sahib said, "You have chosen the money, so we shall keep the soil and the bark."
And so they lost their forests. Today, 98% of their land is controlled by the Forest Department. The local people have only an area of about 55,000 hectares to themselves. Even here, farming rights are conditional. Houses can be built only once in 20 years when the Forest Department provides free timber. And only those tribals can apply for land who farmed before 1980. At a maximum of 3.5 hectares, half the land must be planted with teak, care and prosperous. You'd think the Forest Department were restricting the use of these forests to prevent depletion. But the reality is, illegal felling is taking place at the cost of the tribals.
You know, the state development budget is about 18 crores. Whereas the Forest Department makes an annual income of about 19 crores by selling timber alone. The per capita developmental expenditure is about 1200 odd rupees, but yet 98% of the people are below the poverty line.
As a result, pressure on land is incessant. Left with no option, the Dangis have been forced to become labourers in exploitative circumstances. When Living on the Edge visited the area, we saw very few adults as they were all working in factories. Clashes between the Forest Department and tribals are not rare, particularly when the department tries to take unnecessary advantage of the Dangis.
In 1992, some people got a stay order from the High Court in Ahmedabad saying that they should be allowed to cultivate this land. Now, I have seen proofs with these people. I can't name them because of the police oppression and the Forest Department oppression, where they have been cultivating the land for more than 20 years, and yet they were thought to be evicted.
But Balaguru Swami, Chief Conservator of Forest Surat Circle, denies this, quoted in the Environment Journal Down to Earth.
Do you think the villagers would have kept quiet if he had really violated the court orders? The department will not do such things. The court orders were not general orders, and the eviction took place only after detailed investigation.
It is to support the cause of tribals like the Dangis that the United Nations has just ushered in the decade of the indigenous people. 10 years may be too short a while to correct the injustices of centuries. After all, as guardians of natural resources, tribals like the Dangis have always been a thorn in the flesh of colonizers and development enthusiasts, not to mention administrators. The Dangis are a living reminder that age-old links with the forest cannot be removed with the flourish of a pen, and that conservation can never really be separated from the needs of a community still dependent on land for survival.
From Gujarat, we move to Maharashtra, to a little village near Pune, home to a remarkable transformation brought about by the villagers themselves. Once perpetually drought-ridden and poverty-stricken, it's now a happy, thriving community. Tisha Srivastava finds out how this happened.
Why does drought happen? How far are people to blame? And is there some way out of this perennial misery? These were only few of the questions that haunted Vilas Rao Salunke in 1972 as he watched the land, crops and spirit of rural Maharashtra being devastated by one of the worst droughts ever. He was an industrialist, but as he pondered nature's mysteries, he felt himself evolving into an agriculturalist, unearthing facts that might lessen the impact of this agrarian calamity.
Almost half the country's dams are in Maharashtra. Unlike Punjab, where there is 90% land is irrigated. In Maharashtra, even now, we have only 13% land irrigated. I had no background of agriculture. So I started questioning what relation this has got with drought.
Despite the fact that the area enjoyed very little irrigation, 70% of all available water, Vilas Rao observed, was being directed towards sugarcane production. A switch from sugarcane to something more seasonal, something less parching seemed the obvious first step in a search for solutions. But what? The villagers of Mahur, under Salunke's leadership, found their answer in the soil itself. Flowers, it would seem, were the only option. They grow easily and naturally on dry, lifeless soil, the type found in Mahur. So sugarcane production was unceremoniously ended and a Pani Panchayat came into existence based on the cultivation of crops that were not water intensive. Water rationing was also essential, as was equitable distribution. The government did have its schemes, but the villagers were clueless about how they were implemented.
सन 1972 मध्ये संपूर्ण महाराष्ट्रामध्ये फार मोठा दुष्काळ पडला होता आणि या परिसरामध्ये साधारणपणे 85 इंच पाऊस पडतो. तो इथे अगदी 10 ते 15 इंच पाऊस पडला असावा आणि त्यामुळे येथील जी काही नियमित पिके होती ती जवळजवळ संपूर्णपणे गेली होती आणि त्याचप्रमाणे आपण ज्या रब्बीची पिके असं म्हणतो ती पिके गेली होती.
Vilas Rao showed the villagers how water could be lifted from the dam backwaters with tube wells. With government aid, a lift irrigation system was started and almost everyone had access to lots of water. But there was a catch. Villagers had to share the expenses for running the system and they also had to evolve a cooperative management style to meet everyone's needs. Today in Mahur, water is available like never before, turning the backwaters into a sightseeing shrine of sorts. Marigolds, lilies and tuberoses that grow here have become extremely popular in Pune for the simple reason that the farmers use only organic manure on this easily tired soil. The Mahur flowers now enjoy an exclusive market because the flowers remain fresh and last much longer, and the farmers seem to be enjoying this newfound prosperity.
मुंबईला ज्यावेळेस मिलमध्ये मी कामाला होतो त्यावेळेस मला रोजचे 20 रुपये मिळायचे, परंतु ते मला फार म्हणजे असं कठीण वाटायचं की आपण फक्त 20 रुपयाकरता 200 मैल इथं आलेलो आहे. त्यामुळे मी असा निर्णय घेतला की आपल्या गावाला राहून शेती करायची आणि तिथे इथं आल्यानंतर मी ते फुलाची वगैरे लागवड केली आणि त्यातून मला आता रोजचे 400 ते 500 रुपये रोजचे मिळतात.
Which, if anything, is an understatement, because from a measly 20 rupees a day, they now earn 400 rupees instead. This figure seems to be the rule rather than the exception for most farmers. The easy availability of water has transformed lives, but that does not mean that conflicts and altercations are rare. And yet, since water rights rest within the community, problems are easier to solve. This simple approach has worked wonders in over 60 villages in this part of Maharashtra. There is a thin dividing line between silent suffering and waking up to a village of rippling waters and gushing taps. Which side you're on depends on how intelligently you harness your natural resources. It's clear which side of the line Salunke and the inhabitants of Mahur are on with their Pani Panchayats.
Every year, 2.5 million children in India die before the age of 1. Of these, 1.5 million die because of diarrhea.